Your Excellency, Dame Sandra Mason, Governor General, the Honourable George Payne, Acting Prime Minister of Barbados, Honourable Sir Marston Gibson, Chief Justice, Honourable Dale Marshall, Attorney General, the Honourable Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Honourable Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess, Justices of the Court of Appeal, other members of the legal fraternity, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sharon Lynch, your Master of Ceremony for this morning's proceedings. I bid you good morning and welcome to Government House for this historic event, a proud moment for this fair land, Barbados, and for a distinguished son of the soil, the Honourable Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess, who will, in a few minutes, accede to the office of Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. The first item on our programme this morning will be remarks by the distinguished gentleman who Mr. Burgess will be replacing in his new office. I invite the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Honourable Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders, to the microphone.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dame Sandra Mason, Honourable Acting Prime Minister, Mr. George Payne, Sir Marston Gibson, Chief Justice of Barbados, Honourable Dale Marshall, Attorney General, colleague judges, Queen's Counsel, other distinguished invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Today's swearing-in ceremony marks the culmination of a process that began several months ago. Since its inauguration in 2005, the Caribbean Court of Justice has always been staffed by 7 judges. As one of the 7 retires, a vacancy naturally arises. A vacancy arose last July. Sir Dennis Byron retired, and because I succeeded him as President of the Court, a vacancy arose for the position that I held. Another vacancy will occur in July of this year, as Mr. Justice David Hayton will retire then. In light of these existing and impending vacancies, the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission advertised for the position of judge last year. It is the commission that selects the judges. The 10-member commission is chaired by the President of the Court. The commission comprises a group of distinguished persons. 6 of them are selected by bar associations and law institutions in the region. 2 others are, respectively, a chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission and a head of judiciary of a CARICOM member state, each on a triennial rotating basis. Finally, there are 2 persons from civil society nominated jointly by the Secretary General of CARICOM and the Director General of the Organization of East Caribbean States. The Commission received 18 applications in response to the advertisement that was put out last year for the office of judge. The applicants were from countries such as Australia, Barbados, Botswana, the Cameroons, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, the United States of America, and the United Kingdom. Each of these 18 applicants was obliged to submit for the consideration of the Commission a detailed dossier that provided a fair picture of the experience, qualifications, and suitability of the applicant for appointment. The Commission then carefully examined the applications and shortlisted the 8 most impressive applicants. The shortlisted candidates were brought to the Court's headquarters in Port of Spain for an extensive in-person interview. The agreement establishing the Court provides some guidance to the members of the Commission on how they should go about assessing the suitability of a person to be a judge of the CCJ. The Commission is mandated to have regard to such criteria as high moral character, intellectual and analytical ability, sound judgment, and understanding of people and society. The Commission is also authorized to consult with associations representative of the legal profession and with other bodies and individuals that it considers appropriate. It is out of this rigorous, competitive, merit-based process that Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess emerged as a successful candidate. His appointment is richly deserved. Since he has been, over the last 8 years or so, a judge of the Barbados Court of Appeal, throughout those 8 years, I have had occasion to study his judgments. Indeed, I am obliged to do so if appeals to the CCJ are lodged against them. Even when we had different views as to the outcome of a particular case, I've always been impressed by Andrew's breadth of knowledge, by the high quality of his writing skills, and by his attention to detail. He will be a most welcome addition to the CCJ bench, as he brings with him a tremendous amount of experience, both as an eminent member of the academic community and as an appellate judge. I take this opportunity to congratulate you warmly, Justice Burgess, on your elevation. I confidently speak for all of my colleagues when I say that we all look forward to working with you. The CCJ will benefit considerably from your scholarship and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders. Mr. Justice Burgess has had a distinguished career locally, regionally, and internationally. And before he takes the oath of office, the Honorable Sherman Moore, retired Justice of Appeal, will introduce this educator, author, and jurist. Mr. Sherman Moore.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Chief Justice, Attorney General, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Justices of Appeal, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and members of the media. It is a pleasure and privilege to have been asked to make these introductory remarks about the Honorable Mr. Justice Andrew Derrick Burgess on this, another significant milestone in a stellar legal career. Andrew is an outstanding local, regional, and international scholar, academic and jurist, whose journey has taken him from Cave Hill campus of the UWI to the Hugh Wooding Law School, Osgood Hall Law School, where he gained a master's degree, and thence to that most hallowed of academic institutions, Oxford University. There, as senior Commonwealth Scholar, he was academic visitor for the year 1992 to 1993. In 2003, he became the first graduate of the Faculty of Law of UWI to be honored by the conferment on him of the title of professor. The students who sat at his feet describe him as a scholar, great teacher, and a gentleman. With those sentiments, I concur. His judicial career began in 2004 when he was appointed judge of the Administrative Tribunal of the Inter-American Development Bank, where he was elevated to vice president in 2007 and president in 2009, from which office he resigned in 2010. In August 2010, he was appointed Justice of Appeal, which office he now demits to become a member of the final court for Barbados. In May 2013, he was appointed Judge of the World Bank Administrative Tribunal. He is now Vice President of that body. For most men, such a career might have been overwhelming, but not so for Andrew. He also found time to author 2 books of legal authority and to co-author a 3rd. He was a member of the Tax Appeal Board, the Community Legal Services Commission, the Judicial Council, and other national bodies. He also found time to serve on UWI committees, attend numerous conferences, and write many papers, among other academic pursuits. He also served as Dean of the Faculty of Law for 12 years. His journey in the service of this country, this region, and the global community continues with his elevation as a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. On behalf of his erstwhile colleagues and on my own behalf, I wish him God's continued blessings. Andrew is married to Sandra Osborne. They're the parents of 2 sons, and there are now grandparents to 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. Andrew, my heartiest congratulations, and my wife has asked me to extend congratulations and best wishes to you as well. Your Excellency, with Your Excellency's permission, I introduce the Honorable Mr. Justice Andrew Derrick Burgess for conferment on him of the title, His Honor. Thank you.
A stellar career of service indeed. Thank you very much, the Honorable Sherman Moore. And now the climax of this morning's proceedings. Her Excellency will administer the oath of office as Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess is sworn in as Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Your Excellency. And
get rid of me. Get rid of me.
By Her Excellency Dame Sandra Prunella Mason, Dame Grand Cross of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, Dame of St. Andrew, Queen's Counsel, Governor General of Barbados. Whereas the Caribbean Court of Justice is an essential part of the effort to deepen and strengthen the Caribbean community through a single market and a single economy, which the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas provides for. And whereas the Caribbean Court of Justice is the highest municipal court in the region that considers and determines appeals in both civil and criminal matters from courts within the jurisdictions of member states of the community, which are parties to the agreement establishing the Court of Justice, hereinafter referred to as the agreement. And whereas paragraph 3.1a of Article 5 of the agreement provides that the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission, hereinafter referred to as the Commission, shall have responsibility for making appointments to the court, to the office of Judge of the Court. And whereas the Commission, at its 114th meeting held in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, on the 29th day of September 2000, having decided that you, the Honorable Mr. Justice Andrew Derrick Burgess, be appointed Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice from the first day of February 2019. And whereas paragraph 1 of Article 10 of the agreement provides that a judge of the court shall not enter upon the duties of that office unless he has taken and subscribed the oath of office as set out in Appendix 1 to the agreement. And whereas paragraph 2, Article 10 of the agreement provides that the oath of office shall be taken and subscribed before the head of state of any contracting party. And whereas there is occasion for the taking of the oath of office by you, the Honorable Mr. Justice Andrew Derrick Burgess, having been appointed Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Now therefore, Dame Sandra Prunella Mason, Dame Grand Cross of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, Dame of St. Andrew, Queen's Counsel, Governor General of Barbados, do hereby proclaim that on this 18th day of January, 2019, the said Andrew Derek Burgess accedes to the office of Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice.
You can now get rid of me. Get rid of you? I have an open mic. I have an open mic. I, Andrew Derek Burgess, having been appointed as a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, do hereby swear that I will faithfully exercise the office of judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and in accordance with the Code of Judicial Conduct. So help me God. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the new Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And we will now hear from our newly sworn-in judge.
Your Excellency, Dame Sandra Mason, Governor General of Barbados, the Honorable George Payne, Acting Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Sir Marston Gibson, Chief Justice of Barbados, the Honorable Dale Marshall, Attorney General of Barbados, Honorable Justice Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Justices of Appeal, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good morning. You've just witnessed me take an oath before God, and to Him I give thanks and praise for making this occasion possible, and to Him alone is the glory. You'll recall that the oath I took is that I will, quote unquote, faithfully exercise the office of Judge of the CCJ. In this short address, I propose to share with you what I understand to be entailed in the office of Judge of the CCJ and why I believe that I will be able to fulfill the obligations cast on me by that oath. Let me begin by defining what, for me, is the CCJ. For me, the CCJ is an amalgam of fundamental aspirations of us Caribbean people, which are aimed at bending the arc of the history of the common law towards the development of a truly Caribbean system of law that is respected regionally and internationally. As enunciated in the vision statement of the Caribbean Court of Justice, 4 such aspirations are embraced in the CCJ idea. These are that the CCJ be a leader in providing high-quality justice, be responsive to the challenges of our diverse communities, be innovative, fostering jurisprudence that is reflective of our history, values, and traditions, and consistent with international norms, and be inspirational, worthy of the trust and confidence of the people of the region. As you can see, this vision embraces frighteningly lofty ideals indeed. That notwithstanding, I've taken the oath this morning in the firm belief that the vision of the CCJ mirrors my lifelong career, and that the experiences which I have been fortunate to gain in pursuing my career vision will assist me in attempting to further each and every aspiration enunciated in the vision statement of the CCJ. Now, taking each plank of the CCJ's vision statement in turn, I will attempt to explain why I believe that I can make a contribution to the work of the CCJ in pursuit of its vision. I'll take first the CCJ's aspiration to be a leader in providing high-quality justice. For the last 8 years or so, I have had the honor and privilege of serving as a Justice of Appeal in the Court of Appeal of Barbados. In that time, I've had the opportunity to author upward of 35, getting ahead of myself, 35 judgments, many of which are cited by practitioners as precedents in our courts. Of course, it goes without saying that I was only able to achieve this because of the outstanding generosity of my colleagues in the Court of Appeal, which, as you know, is led by the Honorable Chief Justice, in sharing with me their superior judicial experience, which, as you know, is the life of the law. In this regard, I would like to thank in particular Your Excellency during your tenure as a Justice of Appeal, Mr. Justice Sherman Moore, and Madam Justice Goodrich, and more recently, Mr. Justice Chandler and Madam Justice Reefer. We worked under the guidance of the Honorable Chief Justice. I thank all of you very much for your contribution to my judicial work. I believe that the experience I gain in my working with you will go a long way in assisting me in making a contribution to the CCJ's vision of being a leader in providing high-quality justice in that court's appellate jurisdiction. I also believe that the experience I've gained from serving as a judge in 2 international tribunals will facilitate my making a contribution to the CCJ's vision of providing high-quality justice in its original jurisdiction. For the last 5 years, I've been sitting as a judge on the World Bank Administrative Tribunal, as you've heard from my very good friend, Justice Moore, and I sat as a judge of the Inter-American Development Administrative Tribunal from 2004 to 2010. These two tribunals administer administrative law and international labor law, and like the CCJ in its original jurisdiction, are courts of first and last resort. Accordingly, my experience in dispensing justice in these tribunals will stand me in good stead in contributing to the work of the CCJ in its original jurisdiction. Secondly, I will deal with the CCJ's aspiration to be responsive to the challenges of our diverse communities. Prior to my appointment to the Court of Appeal in Barbados, I was a student for 3 years in the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies, and later served as an academic in the Faculty of Law. I was appointed Dean of the Faculty and served in that post from 1989 to 1992, and then from 1995 to 2004. In that post, I also served as a member of the University Senate, a member of the University other committees, the Council of Legal Education, and was an observer at the Legal Affairs Committee of CARICOM. Now, during this time also, I served on a number of national and regional committees, including as chairman of the Commission of Inquiry into law and practices surrounding the diplomatic bag in Trinidad and Tobago. These experiences brought me face to face with my Caribbean brothers and sisters and the challenges of our diverse communities. I give one example of such a challenge, which was the problem of widening access to legal education in the Commonwealth Caribbean region, to take account of the difficult economic circumstances in Guyana at that time. As a response to this, I, as Dean of the Faculty, conceptualized and developed with Sir Keith Hunt, the then principal of Cave Hill campus, the UE-UG Collaborative Legal Education Agreement. That was in 1995, which has been commended by the Ministers of Legal Affairs and by the Committee of Experts set up by the Heads of Government Conference to review legal education in the region. It is experiences like this which encourage me to believe that I can make a contribution to the CCJ's vision of being responsive to the challenges of our diverse communities. Thirdly, I turn to the CCJ's aspiration to be innovative, fostering jurisprudence that is reflective of our history, values and traditions, and consistent with international legal norms. This is perhaps the most challenging aspiration in the CCJ's vision statement. The challenge for the CCJ as the apex court in the region to be innovative must be approached with utmost caution. This is because in the common law tradition, courts are not supposed to make law. Innovating law is the function of Parliament. However, there's room for the CCJ to develop the law as expressed in its precedents. The aspiration to be innovative therefore involves a delicate balancing of the CCJ's role in developing precedents and Parliament's role in making law. In my more than 35 years as an academic in the Faculty of Law, my research and writing has been focused on the problem of developing a coherent Caribbean jurisprudence within the context of our common law tradition. This started with my first international publication, and I give it the title Judicial Precedent in the West Indies, and continued throughout the time I spent in the Faculty of Law. The quest for regional jurisprudence continued in my work in the Court of Appeal of Barbados. There, my colleagues in the Court of Appeal and I have taken every opportunity to reflect our Barbadian law, history, and culture in our judgments. I believe that my work at the faculty and in the Court of Appeal will greatly facilitate my contributing to the CCJ's vision of fostering the development of a Caribbean jurisprudence of international quality. Fourthly, I take the CCJ's goal to be an inspirational institution worthy of the trust and confidence of the region, the people of the region. I had the good fortune of witnessing the development of the Faculty of Law into an institution which enjoys the confidence and trust of the region. This development occurred to a large extent as a result of the work of deans like Professor Patrick, Professor Carnegie, Dr. Liverpool, but also because of the enthusiasm and commitment of newly trained regional academics like Dr. Francis Alexis, Ms. Dorcas White, Mr. Andrew Thomas, and Dr. Derek McCoy. I was also present in the faculty to witness the growth of a new crop of academics, such as Prof. Rosemary Antoine, Professor Winston Anderson, who now serves as a judge on justice in the Court of Appeal, Ms. Tracy Robinson, Mr. Jefferson Cumbach, and Ms. Leslie Walker. It is my experience in participating in the faculty's development into an inspirational institution which enjoys the trust and confidence of the people of the region that assures me that I can make a contribution to this plank of the CCJ's aspiration. Let me conclude by underlining that I'm aware that the CCJ is perhaps the most important post-independence regional initiative. In my view, the CCJ has so far established itself as an exemplary Caribbean institution. I'm also aware that to protect and build upon this is not a task meant for the faint-hearted. All that said, I'm confident that with the continued support of my wife Sandra, our boys and their families, my friends, especially at Paragon Tennis Club, and my colleagues, I will meet the demands of the oath which I have just taken this morning. I have to. For, with the apologies to Barack Obama, the CCJ is the dream of our mothers and fathers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess, for sharing your thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this short but significant ceremony, the swearing in of the newest judge of the CCJ, the Honourable Mr. Justice Andrew Burgess. We wish him God's blessings in his new assignment. Thank you for attending. I wish everyone a pleasant day, and may this be the start of a wonderful upcoming weekend for you. Thank you. Following this ceremony, members of the media are to my right, and they are ready to conduct any interviews. So we have our media engagement over here, and they're all gathered. Thank you.
Congratulations on this position, sir. In a nutshell, what can the region expect from you? Yes, you explained exactly what you would have learned and what you brought, but in a nutshell, what can the region expect from you in such a post, such a prestigious post?
Thank you very much for your warm congratulations. But what can the region expect from me? Well, I am hopeful that I can add to the excellent work which the Caribbean Court of Justice is doing in providing the region with a jurisprudence which is respected not only regionally but internationally. I know that the court has delivered a number of decisions which already are resonating not only regionally but internationally. And what I propose is to work along with the President and the team of judges at the Caribbean Court of Justice to do precisely that, to create a jurisprudence of which this region can be proud.
You also hinted about the CCJ in terms of something as it relates to law.
Well, the CCJ is not only about justice, it's justice according to law. So I believe that what I may have been saying is that the CCJ, that there are lots of challenges given our common law tradition. There are challenges in the CCJ fashioning a Caribbean jurisprudence, as it were. But that is not, I don't think it's impossible. I think that the CCJ has already proved. There's the case of Barbadian case, the early case of Ram Merchandani and Barbados Rediffusion. My president sat in that case, and that's a case which I think has established jurisprudence which is of world class. So even though there are constraints on what court can do in a common law legal system, still there's room for innovation, and the CCJ has proved that.
Again, we are seeing that the rest of our neighbors, brothers and sisters around the region, continue to be very reluctant to sign on to the CCJ. How do you see yourself helping or contributing to the change in that mindset that so many seem hell-bent on holding on to?
Well, if I can take that, I think that Andrew would help the court to be the best court that it can be. At this point in time, I believe that the main goal of the court is, as Andrew has said, to fashion a Caribbean jurisprudence that is reflective of our aspirations and our values. Those countries that send their appeals to us, they are reaping benefits of having us as their final court. And those that currently do not, for a host of reasons that have very little to do with the quality of the court's work, with the timeliness of the court's decision making. I think that if we are the best we can be, then it is just a matter of time. Coming on board in the appellate jurisdiction is a political question, it's a constitutional question, and it is for the governments and the peoples of the various countries that do not currently send their appeals to us to send them in good time. And I have no doubt that that would happen in due course.
Yeah, if I could just add to what the President has said, I agree with him entirely. Now, you have to remember that for a lot of countries in the region, they have to take the CCJ on faith, because the CCJ only came into existence in 2005. So the question is, do you believe that the CCJ will become or will deliver justice comparable with the Privy Council? Now, clearly there were some countries which had the initial confidence in ourselves that we could do that, but one must not hold it against persons in the region who are saying, well, let's look at it and see what the court can do. And I think that the President is right, that given the body of jurisprudence which the court is building, that it is not going to be long before the confidence which our people in the region need to join a court like the CCJ, that it's only a matter of time before they recognize that our justice it compares favorably, very favorably, with the Privy Council.
Now, violent crime is a scourge that is pretty much affecting all Caribbean territories. In addition, when compounded with backlogs in court systems, some jurisdictions have different points of blockage, whether it is shortage of judges at the Supreme Court level, etc. And there are others who are still left to go to the Privy Council, and again, the length of time it takes for those matters to be heard, etc., having not signed on to the CCJ. Do you think that a quicker sign, first of all, how can the CCJ help with the speeding up of that process with those jurisdictions that, should they choose to sign on? And in addition, how can they, what's your take on crime and your solution, not necessarily solution, but your take on crime throughout the region?
I take the last question first. The situation with crime in the region is, as you say, really horrendous. In fact, just this morning, somebody sent me a WhatsApp, what do you call it, a meme or a message that was giving the statistics on the countries that have the highest homicide rate. And sadly to say, 100,000 Caribbean countries feature very prominently in the top 25, in the worst 25 countries. So that crime is a problem. And the treatment of crime is a very intractable problem, because there is not one criminal justice system. There are actually several justice systems that have to work in tandem with each other. There is the prosecutorial system, there is the police, there is the prison system, there is the courts, there's probation and welfare. All of these are bodies that have different high command structures, and they all have a role to play in tackling crime, reducing crime, and treating with crime. It is imperative that they all work together in order to fashion appropriate rules, appropriate processes that are effective in treating with crime. And I think that that is a challenge which we are still to fully grapple with in the Caribbean. The court only plays a small part in resolving that issue, but I think it plays the most important part, because ultimately these cases come to the court for resolution. But before they reach the court, a lot of work has to be done in detecting crime, in bringing in suspects, in charging them appropriately, even before the court becomes involved. So it's something that we have to work with. Another sore issue in relation to crime is the volume of persons who are on remand in some countries. It's absolutely horrendous, because these are persons who have not been convicted but are in custody for inordinate lengths of time. And that too is an issue which we have to address.
If I may, President, I think that this is that area, the area of dealing with remand and justice at that level. I think that the CCJ has, in its jurisprudence, attacked that problem. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Mr. President.
Well, there is one decision, in fact, that we gave, that the Costa Hall, where we took the decision that time spent on remand should be credited against the sentence if the person is convicted and sentenced, because it seems to us that that is only reasonable and practical from a human rights standpoint. In relation to the first question about getting countries on board and how soon and so on, as we said earlier, countries coming on board in the appellate jurisdiction is a constitutional issue. It's therefore an issue of governments, of peoples, of political parties, and while we are prepared to provide information to those countries that do not currently send their appeals to the court, ultimately it is for the countries themselves to take that decision. At the court, we are concerned mostly with the processing of matters after they have been appealed, so that typically a case goes to a trial judge or a magistrate, and then there is an appeal to the Court of Appeal, and then after the Court of Appeal has given a decision, the matter is before the CCJ if someone wants to appeal further. And we have been ensuring that the time lag between the end of the appeal court's process and the process before the CCJ is a reasonable one. Currently, it runs to about six months to a year, depending on the length of documents that have to be prepared and filed. But that, by any standards, is a reasonable time gap.